So variables are containers for storing data values. And unlike other programming languages, Python does not have a command for declaring a variable, which means that a variable is created the moment you first assign a value to it. For example, if we write x is equal to 5, we don't have to declare that x is a number. The moment I write x is equal to 5, x is automatically assigned as a number. For example, if we then write y is equal to John, and then we say print x, and then print y, you would notice that Python is automatically able to understand that 5 is a number and John is a text string. Now, variables do not need to be declared with any particular type, which obviously means that they can even change the type after they have been set. For example, if you start by x is equal to 4, which means that in this case x is an integer, and then you write that x is equal to Sally, what we have done now is we have converted x is a string. And you will notice that when we click on print x, it tells us the result as Sally. So what we have done is we have overwritten the value in x, and despite the fact that earlier it was an integer and now it has become a string, it is still working. How do you declare a string? You can either write it inside double quotes like this, or you can even write it in a single quote like this. Both of these would be correct. Let's also look at some rules that you have to keep in mind while declaring a variable. Now, a variable name can be as simple as x or y, but I would always recommend to give a more descriptive name. For example, you want to write age or gender or population. There are certain rules that you have to keep in mind. They have to start either with an underscore or with a letter. They cannot start with a number. It can also contain only alphanumeric characters. That means everything from A to Z, from lowercase a to lowercase z, from 0 to 9, and an underscore. Nothing else. So periods, hyphen, exclamation marks would not be allowed. Also remember that variable names are case sensitive. So age is not the same as uppercase age. They will be considered as two different variables. So just to recap, if I write 2 myvar is equal to John and I try to run this, you notice that it immediately tells us that there is a invalid syntax because we cannot start a variable with a number. Similarly, if you have written a dash in the middle, again it will result in an error because a dash will not be allowed. Also, spaces again will not be allowed, right? But if you want to look at the correct variables, my var is equal to John is a proper variable name. If you write my underscore var, that is also correct. Underscore my underscore var is also correct. My var with v capitalized is correct. The entire thing being uppercase is also correct. And if you write letters followed by a number, that is also allowed. But remember, the first character cannot be a number. If you want to assign variables to multiple, or rather assign values to multiple variables, you can do it in a single line. For example, we can write x comma y comma z is equal to, let's say, technology, furniture, and accessories. So when we say that we want to print x and we want to print y and finally we want to print z, it will give us all the three results like this. Also, you can assign the same value to multiple variables in a single line. For example, if you write x is equal to y is equal to z is equal to technology, and let me just copy and paste this. See the result? This time we get technology 3 times. This means that there are 3 different variables x, y, and z, and all the 3 have a value called technology inside. We have already seen how the print statement works when you want to output a variable. So if you want to combine a text and a variable, you can use the plus character. For example, if you've written that x is equal to awesome, and then you say that print python plus x, remember the plus is going to act like a concatenation, and the result will come like python awesome, right? We can probably change it a little bit. I can make python is, and now the result will be python is awesome. You can also use the plus character to add a variable to another variable. For example, if x is python is and y is equal to awesome, and if I say that z, which is a third variable, is equal to x plus y, we can then print z, and the result will come as the concatenation of x and y, which would be python is awesome. But when you're using the plus character with numbers, then the result would change. So x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 10. But if we say that print x plus y, then automatically the result comes as 50. But obviously, if you try to add a number to an integer to a text string, it will not work. So if x is 5 and y is equal to name, and if I try to print x plus y, then it results in an error saying that the operand type is unsupported because you can't add an integer and a string together. Now you can also create what we call global variables. Now this means that you're creating a variable outside of a function, which means it's a global variable. This means that it can be used by everyone, both inside the function and outside the function. For example, I'm writing x is equal to awesome. Then we define any function name. So I'm going to call it myfunc. Remember, this is just a name. You could have written anything that you want. Open and close parentheses with a colon. And we want to print that Python is plus x. And then we say my func with open and close parentheses. And you notice the result comes as Python is awesome. Now, if you create a variable with the same name inside a function, then the variable will be local and it can only be used inside the function. So the global variable with the same name will remain as it was, global and with the original value. So let's take an example. I want to write that x is equal to awesome. Then we define my function and we say that x is equal to fantastic. Now remember, x is already a global variable, but in addition to that, we are defining x inside our function as well. So when I print it and I say that Python is plus x, and we write my function, just think about what the result would be. It gives us Python is fantastic because it has taken up the value of the x variable which is inside the function. And if I write print Python is along with x, now you notice that the first one, which is my function, comes as x is fantastic, and the second one picks up the x variable value from the global x value, which is awesome, like this. All right. Now, when you create a variable inside a function, then that variable is local and it can only be used inside that function. Now, if you want to create a global variable inside a function, then you can use the global keyword. So if I write define my function and I say that my variable is a global variable and I write that x is equal to fantastic and I write my function and I also write print python is plus x. Okay, let me also copy this in the beginning. So just think about it. When I run this, you notice it says Python is fantastic because this time we have defined x as a global variable inside the function. Okay, let's see what else I can show you. Okay, I think we have covered quite a lot. So I've shown you how to declare variable types. And in the next lecture, we will look at different data types on Python.